What does it feel like to be the world's most feared special forces operator, only to find yourself struggling in conflicts where you should dominate? For decades, Russia's Spetsnaz have been mythologized as superhuman warriors, capable of wrestling bears and surviving impossible odds. What is shocking about recent conflicts is that these supposedly elite forces have faced significant challenges that have called their legendary status into question. But what really happens when the rubber meets the road and elite units face modern warfare? Are the Spetsnaz truly overrated, or is something else entirely at play? You'll find out through the complex story of how reputation and reality don't always align in the unforgiving world of military operations. The word Spetsnaz itself reveals the first misconception. Far from referring to a single elite unit, Spetsnaz simply means special purpose in Russian, an umbrella term covering various specialized units within Russia's military, intelligence, and law enforcement services. It's similar to how Americans use special forces or special operations to describe everything from Army Rangers to Navy SEALs to CIA paramilitary units. This broad definition includes genuinely elite units like GRU military intelligence operators and FSB Alpha Group, but also encompasses specialized police units, emergency responders, and various other special purpose forces. The mythologization of Spetsnaz has treated them as a monolithic force of superhuman capabilities, when in reality they're a diverse collection of units with very different training, equipment, and intended roles. This misunderstanding has led to a fundamental problem: deploying the wrong tool for the wrong job. The 2008 invasion of Georgia provided the first major indication that something was wrong with how Russia employed its special forces. Despite overwhelming numerical superiority and the element of surprise, Spetsnaz units struggled in ways that surprised Western observers who had bought into the superhuman warrior mythology. The problem wasn't their training or capabilities, it was their deployment. Russian commanders assigned Spetsnaz units to tasks that were fundamentally better suited for regular infantry formations. Instead of conducting reconnaissance behind enemy lines, sabotaging communications infrastructure, or eliminating high-value targets, they found themselves in direct confrontations and holding static positions. Special forces are designed for speed, stealth, and surgical precision. They're meant to strike specific targets and extract quickly, not engage in sustained firefights or hold territory. When you take operators trained for these specialized missions and use them as expensive infantry, you're wasting both their unique skills and their lives. The Georgia campaign exposed a critical flaw in Russian military thinking: the belief that elite automatically means better at everything. This fundamental misunderstanding would be repeated on a much larger scale in subsequent conflicts. Understanding why this matters requires grasping what special forces are actually designed to do. Elite units like the GRU Spetsnaz are trained for reconnaissance, sabotage, target elimination, and what military professionals call direct action surgical strikes against specific objectives. They operate in small teams, rely on surprise and superior intelligence, and are designed to avoid prolonged engagements. Regular infantry, by contrast, are trained for sustained combat, holding positions and fighting as part of larger formations with heavy support weapons, artillery, and air cover. They're designed to take and hold territory through firepower and numbers. These are fundamentally different missions requiring different training, equipment, and tactical approaches. When you put special forces operators in trenches or assign them to hold static defensive positions, you're asking them to fight outside their expertise while denying them the advantages their training provides. It's like using a Formula One race car for hauling cargo, technically possible, but a waste of specialized engineering and likely to produce poor results. The source document details the brutal training regimens that create Spetsnaz operators. GRU candidates face arduous 6.2-mile treks carrying 110-pound packs through bitter winter conditions, followed by rope climbs, wall scaling, and river crossings. They master stealth infiltration, intelligence gathering, demolitions, and unconventional warfare. Naval Spetsnaz train for underwater demolitions, submarine insertions, and covert amphibious operations. They learn to use specialized underwater weapons and deploy from submarines undetected. SSO operators master electronic warfare, sniper operations, and deep penetration strikes designed to remain invisible. This specialized training creates operators capable of extraordinary missions, but only when used correctly. A naval Spetsnaz diva trained in underwater sabotage offers little advantage when assigned to urban street fighting. A GRU operator skilled in deep reconnaissance becomes just another rifleman when placed in a defensive position. The mismatch becomes even more problematic when you consider the investment required to create these operators. It takes years and enormous resources to train a single Spetsnaz operator, making them irreplaceable assets. Using them incorrectly doesn't just waste their capabilities, it wastes the time, money, and expertise invested in creating them. Modern special forces operations depend heavily on intelligence, logistics, and technological support that regular infantry can often do without. Elite units operate with the assumption that they'll have real-time intelligence, precision air support, advanced communications, and rapid extraction capabilities when needed. Without this support infrastructure, even the most elite operators become vulnerable. They're typically equipped for speed and stealth rather than sustained combat, carrying lighter weapons and less ammunition than regular infantry. Their tactics assume they can call for help or extract quickly when situations deteriorate. When commanders deploy Spetsnaz units without providing this essential support or assign them missions that don't require their specialized skills, they create conditions where elite operators perform no better than regular troops. The operators haven't become less capable. They're simply being used in ways that negate their advantages. This explains much of the perceived failure of Spetsnaz in recent conflicts. The units themselves retain their specialized capabilities, but they're being employed in contexts where those capabilities provide no meaningful advantage. When properly employed, Spetsnaz units demonstrate the effectiveness their reputation suggests. Small teams operating with proper intelligence and support can achieve objectives far beyond their numerical strength. The key is using them for missions that leverage their specialized training, rather than treating them as expensive infantry. The concept of force multiplication becomes crucial here. A properly employed special forces team doesn't just fight, they gather intelligence, direct precision strikes, eliminate key targets, and create effects far beyond what their small numbers suggest. They're designed to be the tip of the spear, not the entire spear. Recent conflicts have shown examples of small Spetsnaz units achieving significant tactical successes when employed correctly. However, these successes often go unnoticed because they involve the kind of covert operations that don't generate dramatic headlines or social media footage. The problem arises when military leaders focus on the mystique rather than the methodology, deploying special forces based on their reputation rather than their actual capabilities and intended roles. Decades of Cold War secrecy and popular culture have created unrealistic expectations about what special forces can accomplish. Movies, video games, and sensationalized accounts have portrayed Spetsnaz as nearly invincible warriors capable of single-handedly turning the tide of battles. This mythology creates pressure on military commanders to use special forces as super soldiers rather than specialized tools. When reality doesn't match the myth, observers conclude that the forces themselves are overrated rather than recognizing that they're being misused. The bear wrestling imagery and survival training videos that populate social media reinforce these misconceptions. While Spetsnaz training is undoubtedly intense, the dramatic demonstrations often showcase endurance and psychological conditioning rather than the technical skills that make these units genuinely valuable. Real special forces effectiveness comes from intelligence gathering, target selection, operational security, and precise execution, capabilities that don't make for exciting videos but determine mission success in actual operations. Misusing special forces has consequences beyond individual operations. When elite units are squandered in inappropriate roles, it creates cascading effects throughout the military structure. Regular infantry units may be assigned missions they're better equipped to handle, while specialized objectives go unaddressed because the appropriate units are tied up in conventional fighting. The loss of experienced special forces operators in inappropriate missions creates long-term capability gaps that take years to rebuild. Unlike regular infantry, special forces operators can't be quickly replaced or mass-produced. Each casualty represents a significant loss of institutional knowledge and specialized skills. This misallocation of resources also sends concerning signals about military leadership and strategic thinking. If commanders don't understand how to properly employ their most elite units, it raises questions about their ability to effectively coordinate complex military operations requiring different types of forces working in complementary roles. Understanding the proper role of special forces requires recognizing both their capabilities and limitations. Spetsnaz units remain highly capable when employed in their intended roles: reconnaissance, sabotage, precision strikes, and specialized operations that regular forces can't accomplish. The solution isn't to dismiss these units as overrated, but to use them correctly. This means reserving special forces for missions that actually require their specialized skills, while ensuring they have the intelligence, support, and extraction capabilities needed to operate effectively. Military leaders need to resist the temptation to use special forces as problem solvers for every difficult situation. Sometimes the answer is better infantry tactics, improved logistics, or more appropriate force structures rather than deploying elite units as expensive substitutes for proper planning. The recent performance of Spetsnaz units reveals more about Russian military doctrine and leadership than about the capabilities of the operators themselves. When properly supported and employed in appropriate roles, these units demonstrate the effectiveness that has built their reputation. The challenge lies in military cultures that either misunderstand special forces capabilities or feel pressure to use them inappropriately due to political expectations or operational desperation. Elite units become victims of their own mythology when commanders expect them to succeed regardless of mission suitability or support levels. For observers trying to assess the true capabilities of any nation's special forces, the key is distinguishing between operator quality and employment quality. Even the world's best special forces will struggle when used incorrectly, while properly employed units can achieve remarkable results with minimal resources. The Spetsnaz story serves as a reminder that in military affairs, as in many fields, having the right tool means nothing if you don't know how to use it properly. The myth of superhuman warriors may make for compelling stories, but real military effectiveness comes from understanding capabilities, limitations, and the art of matching the right force to the right mission. Thanks for watching. And now, if you want to see a breakdown of how Russian tanks are doing in the current war, I'd recommend you check out this video next.